Thank you for watching our extended edition of Coffee with the Candidates. We're here with former South Carolina Governor and former United Nations Ambassador Nikki Haley. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much.
We're also here with a panel of some undecided Republicans from Dallas County. They have some questions for Ambassador Haley. We're going to start with Kevin, who has a question about some of the mail he's been receiving.
Yes. Ambassador Haley, I keep getting mail sent to me nonstop telling me how Governor Haley allowed Chinese-owned companies to come to South Carolina and buy land near military bases. So I would like to, one, just hear your side of that. And then two, I would like to know, as president, would you support a ban on China or any other foreign countries buying farmland in America?
First of all, I think that there continue to be a lot of lies in this campaign, but that's the political process. So thank you for asking the question. I have said and will continue to say, China is our #1 national security threat. We have to be very clear-eyed about that. When I was governor 10 years ago, yes, we brought a fiberglass company to South Carolina. Every governor has fought for China to get Chinese companies in their states. Every household has Chinese products in our households. But this is what we have to look at. Years ago, everybody thought if we were nice to China, they would want to be like us. They have proven they don't want to be like us. They want to be communist China. We have to change the way we look at them. So look at the intrusion they have already allowed to have happen in this country. They've bought up 400,000 acres of U.S. soil, most recently near Grand Forks Air Force Base, where our most sensitive drone technology is. They've put millions of dollars into our universities, stealing our research, spreading Chinese propaganda. Everybody got upset when the Chinese spy balloon went over our country. What about the fact that 90% of our law enforcement drones in America are Chinese? So think about the mini surveillance that's happening right now. We've had more Americans die of fentanyl than the Iraq, Afghanistan, and Vietnam wars combined. 75,000 Americans last year alone. There's technology that builds up their military and threatens America, yet the Biden administration approved 70% of it last year. And China is building up their military at a scary pace. They now have 500 nuclear warheads. That's 100 more than they had last year. They have the largest naval fleet in the world. They have 370 ships. They'll have 400 ships in 2 years. We won't even have 350 ships in 2 decades. They're doing cyber, they're doing artificial intelligence, they're doing space, they're doing hypersonic missiles. We've barely gotten started. And now China's the leading developer of neurostrike weapons. Weapons engineered to change the brain activity of military commanders and segments of the population. I fought China every day I was at the United Nations. I dealt with them every day. When Biden and Yellen tell you that they're a competitor, China never saw America as a competitor. They always saw us as an enemy. So how do we deal with China? The first thing is stop selling any U.S. soil to them and take back the land they've already purchased. Secondly, go to every university and say you either take foreign money or you take American money, but the days of taking both are over. Get that infiltration out. Blacklist all the technology that builds their military and hurts America. And then go to them and say, we're going to end all normal trade relations with you until you stop murdering Americans with fentanyl. You watch how fast they change their tune. They need our economy. And then let's build up our military. There were 2 things that China, Russia, and Iran at the United Nations never wanted us to have. They never wanted us to have a strong military, and they never wanted us to be energy independent. Let's be energy dominant. No more going hat in hand to Saudi Arabia or getting dirty oil from Iran or Venezuela. And let's build a strong military. Strong militaries don't start wars, strong militaries prevent wars. And we do that by modernizing. That doesn't mean you throw a bunch of money at the Department of Defense. It's actually pretty wasteful. You get the bureaucracy out, you get the red tape out, and you modernize. We focus on the issues of the future, artificial, space, and cyber, and stop living the wars of the past. That's how we'll take on China. Once they know we're onto them, they will back off. The second thing is, if Ukraine defeats Russia, China won't invade Taiwan. If Russia wins, China wins. That's how we'll take on China.
Ambassador, a Washington Post analysis found that while you were governor of South Carolina, that Chinese capital investment in South Carolina more than doubled. They found from $308 million in 2011 to nearly $670 million in 2015. So if you were president, would you allow that same kind of Chinese capital investment in the country?
We were #1 in foreign direct investment. By the time I left, we were building planes with Boeing. We were building more BMWs than any place in the world. We brought in Mercedes-Benz, we brought in Volvo, we brought in 5 international tire companies. The China investment was less than 1% of the foreign direct investment we brought in. We were working with all countries. We were trying to bring in as much industry for our South Carolinians to have those jobs as we could. And we became known as the Beast of the Southeast because of it. That was 10 years ago. That was in some cases 12 and 13 years ago. This is a different time. You just heard what I want to do with China. We don't give them an inch. You know, when one of those mailers that they're going out, they're saying that I congratulated China or I rolled out the red carpet. The reason I praised China when I was at the UN was because I pushed China to pass 4 different packages of sanctions against North Korea to get them to stop testing ballistic missiles. So I praised China for coming to the table and doing that. You have to work with them, but you don't give them what they want. You make them give us what we want. That's how you work with it. So if you're going to look back at what I did 12 and 13 years ago, I did everything we needed to do to make South Carolina strong. If you look at what my record has been in the last 5-6 years, I fought every day against China because I dealt with them every day at the UN. And every time they're speaking, they're lying. And every time they do something, they're trying to undercut us. And we have to be smart to them and let them know that we're on to them and we see them as the enemy that they are.
We're going to go to Katie next. Katie actually had a question about the aging population in America and how you would take care of them.
Yeah, as the population ages, what is your plan to take care of our elderly population that cannot afford assisted living or nursing homes, and how do you plan to care for them?
This is personal for me. I take care of my parents. They're 87 and 89. And the sacrifice that families are going through. You know, my parents live with us. The sacrifice of what it means to take them to the doctor's office, what it means for their medicines when they go to the hospital, the pressures that are now happening on our age in terms of taking care of parents is a really big deal because assisted living is out of price. Insurance doesn't cover much. There's a lot going on there. And this all really comes back to how can we be the best country in the world with the highest priced healthcare in the world? It's gotta change. We can't keep going like this. And so what I'm gonna do is we're gonna completely open up healthcare. We're not gonna pick on one part of it. We're gonna make all of it transparent. They have to show us everything from the insurance companies to the hospitals, to the doctor's offices, to the pharmaceutical companies, to the middlemen, the PBMs, and everything in between. Let's make it all transparent. Let's see where their warts are. After we do that, let's figure out how to move the patient from the back seat to the driver's seat. When my mom was in the hospital, the nurse came over and tried to give her 2 Tylenol. And my mom said, I don't need it. And she said, oh honey, you might as well take it. You're gonna have to pay for it anyway. When we got the bill, we had nothing to do with the bill. It was negotiated between the insurance company and the hospital. And we had no say. That's wrong. When you go to get your car fixed, what happens? The mechanic says if you need a temporary fix, it's going to cost you this much. If you need a permanent fix, it's going to cost you this much. But you decide. If we just dealt with insurance companies alone, we would cut healthcare costs in half. If we open that up for seniors, they won't be having to decide whether it's medicine or food, or medicine or their utility bill. They'll be able to start having more money to take care of themselves. That's hugely important. So we've got to address that from the first side. The second thing is once you open up healthcare, you also have to look at, and we did this in South Carolina, you've got to pass tort reform. Doctors don't give you those 10 tests because they want to. It's because of the 90% chance they're going to get sued. If you pass tort reform, you stop all of that frivolous spending from happening from doctors trying to protect themselves. And then you eliminate what's called certificate of need. This is what takes away competition in healthcare. So if you notice where there's a hospital, there can't be another hospital for X number of miles. If there's a nursing home, there can't be another one for X number of miles. Same with surgical centers. I eliminated certificate of need in South Carolina because you should have competition in healthcare. When you have hospitals fighting for you, quality of service goes up, prices go down. Same with nursing homes. Same with surgical centers. That's where we have to get back to. That's when we'll make sure we do those things. The other thing to add is Social Security goes bankrupt in 10 years. Medicare goes bankrupt in 8. Every other candidate has said they're not going to touch entitlement reform. If you don't touch it, does that mean you're going in for 4 or 8 years and you're going to leave it bankrupt for somebody else to deal with? We have to do entitlement reform. But to do that, you don't have to scare people. America should keep her promises. You don't touch anyone that's in the system. You don't touch anyone who's paid in. Instead, you go to those like our kids who are in their 20s and you say, we're going to change the rules for you. We're going to raise the retirement age to life expectancy. Instead of cost of living increases, we're going to go to increases based on inflation. We're going to limit benefits on the wealthy. A lot of them don't want it, don't need it, and we'll turn it back over. And then and then expand Medicare Advantage. So we have competition. Seniors love Medicare Advantage plans because it allows costs to come down. Those are the things we can do to, one, ensure seniors are taken care of, but also make sure our kids have something that they can hold on to when that time comes as well.
Talking a little bit about that national debt, the economy, Ryan has a question for you about the economy.
Yeah, from the last debate when discussing the economy, you said we need to loosen regulations, open up our supply chains, and then cut spending back to pre-COVID levels. But you also said that President Trump, at pre-COVID levels, increased our debt by $9 trillion. So how do you, as president, hope to improve our economy while cutting spending, and you still need Congress to help you on that?
Well, remember, we talked about how we were going to really change our agencies and the way that they spend. That's setting the tone to start with. But the second thing is, if you look at the fact we're $34 trillion in debt, the last 3 presidents raised our debt 40%. It's inexcusable. Our kids are never going to forgive us for this. We are now having to borrow money to make our interest payments. China owns some of that debt. We better start getting this right. And what did Republicans do? I mean, I'd love to blame this on Biden. He sent us down this socialism creep that's out of control and dangerous. But our Republicans did that to us too. They passed that $2.2 trillion COVID stimulus bill that expanded Medicaid, that now left us with 100 million Americans on Medicaid, 42 million Americans on food stamps. That's a third of our population. And did Republicans try and make it right? Nope. They opened up earmarks and pet projects for the first time in 10 years, passing through 7,000 of them last year. What'd they spend our money on? $30 million on an honors college in Vermont, $10 million to tear down a hotel in Alaska, $7.5 million on a courthouse in Colorado, and the list goes on. In the 2024 appropriations budget, Republicans put in $7.4 billion worth of earmarks and pet projects. Democrats put in $2.8 billion. Now you tell me who the big spenders are. We call out everybody because it's got to stop. I will stop the spending, I'll stop the borrowing, we'll eliminate the earmarks, and I'll veto any spending bill that doesn't take us back to pre-COVID levels. That will cut trillions. The next thing is we have to focus on the middle class. We've got to cut taxes on the middle class. The rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer. We've got to make small business tax cuts permanent. They're the heartbeat of America. We've got to get that going. And yes, we've got to do the entitlement reform we talked about. But if we start to do things, that's how you'll get the economy moving again. And then you sell energy, and then you build things in America, and then you build up our economy. But we first have to talk about the fact that we have a serious debt problem, and Republicans and Democrats have both done that to us. And I think that you start by making sure we claw back the over $100 billion of unspent COVID dollars that are out there. Instead of 87,000 IRS agents going after middle America, we go after the hundreds of billions of dollars of COVID fraud. 1 out of every $7 was spent fraudulently. If 8% of our budget is interest, quit borrowing. Cut up the credit cards. You have to balance a budget every day. I had to balance a budget as governor. Why is Congress the only group that refuses to balance a budget? Their number one job is to go and give us a budget on time that pays for government. Do you know they've only given a budget on time 4 times in 40 years? If Congress can't do their job, Congress doesn't get paid. That's how we have to start pushing this. They have got to start doing their job, and I will hold both Republicans and Democrats accountable for their spending.
Ryan has another question for you. This one is on immigration.
So in lots of countries across the globe, the lives of the people are just truly awful. So how do we have compassion on those people who just want to come here and have an improved life, and at the same time try to protect our borders from people who hate us and want to hurt us? So how do we decide who to allow in, who to deport?
So I've been to many of those countries, and it is why I always say, even on our worst day, we're blessed to live in America. Because when you've seen how so many around the world live, you would never say another negative word about America after seeing that. But America is a compassionate country. We have been for years. We have always taken in those who've been persecuted based on religion or those that need something. We've had refugees who have come in over years because of that. But there has been a program for that, and it has been heavily vetted, and it has been done the right way. The problem with what's happening on the border now is we are a country of laws. The second you stop being a country of laws, you give up everything this country was founded on. We have had 8 million people cross that border. More fentanyl crossed the border last year that would kill every single American. Number 1 cause of death for adults 18 to 45, fentanyl. And don't think for a second China doesn't know what they're doing when they send it over. We have to make sure we fix the border first. 1, make sure that we will do what I did in South Carolina, do a national E-Verify program to make sure that no business hires anyone in this country who's illegal. Secondly, defund sanctuary cities once and for all. You can't have safe havens or they will continue to come. It's a green light that they look for. Thirdly, let's make sure that we go back to the Remain in Mexico policy. Have them process in Mexico. We have to vet. If we decide to bring anybody over, they have to be fully vetted before they come over. We've had over 1,000 people come from Iran, Yemen, Lebanon. That doesn't count Afghanistan. It only takes one person to do another 9/11. And then instead of catch and release, let's go to catch and deport. You gotta send them back if they come over, or they'll keep coming. And let's put 25,000 more Border Patrol and ICE agents on the ground and let them do their job. Biden just gave temporary status to 500,000 Venezuelans. That's 500,000 Social Security numbers, that's 500,000 driver's licenses. I saw what happens when you do that at the United Nations. They pick up the phone and they call their family members and say, come on over. You've got to stop the incentives. They have to know there's a process. When I was at the United Nations, Trump had a terrible border situation. And when he did, while he was fighting it here, I was on the ground in Honduras and Guatemala because that's where a lot of them were coming from. And we saw that they were having problems with gangs and they were having problems with drugs, and that's why a lot of them were coming over. What we did is we had our military over there training them on how to deal with the gangs. We put drug boats on the water to keep the drugs from coming. But we said to them, we will partner with you, but you have to have people process from here. You can't have them come over. That's what slowed that down. That's what made that happen. But you've got to take the incentive out. And the second thing is we need to reform legal immigration. For years, why does it take someone 10 years to become a citizen? That should not be the case. It's become too heavy, too bureaucratic. Why is it that we're bringing students over, educating them, and sending them home? That's talent that we're putting on the ground. Presidents have always had quotas. They've always just said, we're going to take X number this year, X number next year, with no rhyme or reason. Do it based on merit. Do it based on the talent that we need to grow the economy, that we need that we can't fill. That's when we'll start being smart about immigration and not just being reckless about it.
That is actually all the time that we have for our discussion. So Ambassador Haley, thank you so much for joining us. Our panel, thank you for being with us. And to those watching, thank you for watching Coffee with the Candidates. Have a great day.